Onyx says, what do they mean by this? Nothing I say is financial advice, and I'll talk about the price later and what I think about hypothetically 25 cents. But I first want to talk about this because in this post, they highlight three different things, right? They talk about enterprise, they talk about card, and then also they highlight something about payments. But then beside all of it, it says soon. Now, I like a little bit of mystery, right? Sometimes I like a little bit of a curiosity type of thing. I'm a little bit impatient though sometimes, but I still like a little bit of mystery nonetheless when it comes to sometimes projects that I'm a fan of. Now, what is Onyx planning by doing this? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I don't think it's anything necessarily that revolutionary because, okay, let's say they focus on the cards, right? Zebic, its closest competitor, is also focused on cards, so is it basically just becoming another hypothetical Zebic? Well, I don't mind though if it does because I'm a fan of Zebic. So if there's something again like that, I'm not going to complain about that. You know, if there's McDonald's and KFC, I'm not going to complain. There's Popeyes or whatever, right? Chick-fil-A. I don't mind. You know, that's the thing. Why not, right? If a project is heavily inspired by another one, I don't see what's so bad about it. So when it comes to Onyx, yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to be the most revolutionary thing in my perspective, but I don't mind because it showcases that the project is still developing and still doing things, and especially in Q1 of this year, they're looking to do the mainnet of their layer 1 blockchain. So yeah, overall, I like what they're doing so far. At least it feels like that to me. Now, the thing is this, XCN, I mean, of course, it's not doing the best as of right now. We're taking a look at, for instance, that being around, right, 35 times lower than 25 cents. So yeah, it's not doing the best, but remember not too long ago when it was like over 50 times lower than 25 cents. So the recovery has been a little bit okay. There's been a slight pullback. However, at least it made a little bit of a recovery. The thing is, at 25 cents, market cap would be around 9 billion considering current circulating supply. That in a vacuum, in and of itself, that may seem like such a outlandish figure, right? It's like, wow, around 9 billion, but we have to consider, like this space of global trade and finance, it just doesn't have that many competitors to begin with. And we've seen, you know, just even back in 2025, like what happened. Certain massive projects, they have attention and it kind of starts trickling down. Like for instance, I saw XLM and then XDC also had its thing, and then XCN, and then ZBCN, Swiftcoin, XPR. So sometimes hypothetically it kind of trickles down. We'll wait and see though. But I don't think that was even an altcoin season. So what could happen if there was an actual altcoin season? Here's the thing. The global trade and finance space, it's already been proven within this specific space that it has gained at least some attention, right? Historically, we've seen that. But I've never seen an actual altcoin season where the other alternatives actually became a narrative, right? Where they actually experienced this. Because for quite a while, we take a look at something like Stellar, something like Ripple. Okay, they have attention. But I haven't really seen an actual altcoin season where the other alternatives really had their time to really do something. I haven't seen that. You know, like for instance, I've seen XDC have some attention, but it hasn't really become like so mainstream yet, right? Let alone something like Onyx, Zebic, XPR, Swiftcoin. So I'm a little bit curious. We've already seen some attention for that niche in the past with not that many options, but that was like quite a while back ago. Now, we take a look at now that these other projects have been starting to have their time to kind of shine a little bit in terms of recognition. Now it's a different environment, right? I'm curious to see now with this different environment, with the different sentiment, what could happen to something like this if there was hypothetically an altcoin season. I'm just a little bit curious. Would 25 cents surprise me? I guess probably hypothetically in a make-believe scenario, it wouldn't. But this is just my mindset. Also, when I take a look at Onyx, what I find pretty interesting about it is that we have to consider its layer 1 blockchain has an aspect of EVM, or should I say Ethereum Virtual Machine. But here's the thing. The Ethereum bridge on its layer 1 blockchain, at least in the testnet, we saw that it was powered by something called Chain. Now, this becomes a little bit more interesting in my perspective because we have to consider Chain fully upgraded to ISO 20022. So imagine that. It's powering that bridge, right? That Ethereum bridge. And then again, what's powering it recently upgraded to ISO 20022. But here's where things get a little bit more interesting as well, because Chain, it's part of the Onyx ecosystem, but also on top of that, remember when Chain rebranded to Onyx, right? So there's some history there. But now, of course, Chain as an entity, it's still kind of popular, but I'm just saying still. If I take a look at something like Onyx and its historical ties, so to speak, right, and sort of the vibes overall, I just find it pretty interesting in this case. And we have to consider as well, Onyx, as of right now, it's built on Arbitrum and it's secured by Base. Arbitrum is one of the most popular Ethereum layer 2s out there. And we take a look at Base, it's another Ethereum layer 2, but actually it's Coinbase's Ethereum layer 2. So as I begin to see all this, I think sometimes it opens up a little bit my mind to what I think about when it comes to Onyx in terms of the fundamentals of it and how there's more to it than just simply a quote unquote, sometimes you like to say a watered down version of something like Stellar, which to a certain extent, okay, maybe I get that vibe, but I think there's a little bit more to that. And keep in mind, right? Onyx is secured by Base. The thing is, Base, again, Coinbase's layer 2, Coinbase is on the S&P 500, by the way, right? Again, it's on the S&P 500. So really, when I take a look at Onyx, does it seem like such a bad project to me? I don't think about it that way, but of course, I can't speak on anyone's behalf. But also, let's take this into consideration. When it comes to the Goliath testnet so far, I even saw at a certain point, the average block time is 1 second. We have to consider 1 second. Other projects out there that are more established, that have already done their thing, so to speak, it's like a couple seconds, 5 seconds. Now, it may not seem like such a big difference because people may be thinking, who cares if it's like waiting an extra second or two? Okay, sure. But even though I may not care about it, an enterprise would, because that adds up. Imagine if an enterprise is doing something 1,000 times a day. And like, let's say one place is like 3 seconds, the other one is like a second. That 2 second difference, that could matter a lot. And it's amplified over a week, months, years. That could add up eventually. And an enterprise, they don't like that if it's inefficient. Sometimes they care about these minute details. So personally for me, I'm still a fan. And keep in mind, that's just the testnet. We'll wait and see when it comes to the mainnet. So I'm still a fan of the narrative as of right now, but I'll wait and see. I mean, okay, the charts aren't doing the best, but I take a look at the fundamentals because the charts, it's going to be dependent on a lot of factors, right? Like if there's an altcoin season or not, the sentiment and all this. I feel like if it could maintain the fundamentals and all this type of stuff heading into an altcoin season, sometimes what goes on right now may be a little bit irrelevant later on moving forward, because let's take this into consideration. Is anyone as of right now reminiscing about the days or complaining about the days when Bitcoin was at around $10? I highly doubt that. Maybe some are like reminiscing in terms of why didn't they care about it, but maybe the ones that held from then, like they're not complaining about a dip they experienced many years ago. So if let's say there was a hypothetical altcoin season, I'll forget all about this type of nonsense that went on when it comes to XCN and all the pullback and all this. I'm pretty sure I won't forget it entirely, but it'll just probably not even be such a thing I think about in the grand scheme of things. Because even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, right? If let's say for whatever reason in a make-believe scenario, it doesn't even have anything to do with this. Let's say something is like at 10 cents. Okay, may seem like not that good, but then it dips below to like 2 cents. That's an 80% drop right there. But what happens if in a couple of years we see hypothetically $1? Would that 80% dip at that moment in time seem like such a big deal? At that exact moment in time, yes. But if it's actually hypothetically $1, I highly doubt anyone's going to be thinking about, oh wow, back then that happened. Like people forget about that type of stuff usually when times are good, in my perspective. And it just comes down to, I think, even in real life in general, right? However, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and nothing I say is financial advice, but this is just my opinion as of right now in my perspective when it comes to this project. However, I want to say thank you for watching, and feel free to like the video if you liked it, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more updates when it comes to Onyx. I'd greatly appreciate that, and I'll see you all in the next video. It's Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.